All right, and we are ready to go. Well, welcome everybody. I see a lot of 4Geeks students and alumni here, and I also see a lot of Globanteers here. So we have organized this event with Glovin, who is a 4Geeks partner, and they have brought what they call Globers or Globanteers, people who work on their company, in order to do an open Q&A session. So you may not know too much about Globin, but I'm sure you know the technologies that they are behind. So it's kind of be like panel style, Q&A style. We have Cam Daly here. She's going to be the host MC from the Globin side. So I'll just let them get right into it. I'll pass it over to them. And we did have the type form with some questions that were uploaded late last week. But after we get through those, if we do have time and we want to take more kind of open-end questions, you can drop them in the chat or we can open up the floor. So Cam, there you go.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction. So like was said, I'm Cameron Daly. I am a technical director in the gaming and metaverse studio here at Globant. And before I get to introducing our panelists here today, I just want to talk a bit about what Globant is, because when I was coming out of college, when I was getting into the industry, I didn't know the difference between the different technology company types that exist out there. And so Globant is a consultancy or a professional services company. And so what we do is we help other companies write software. We give them the people and the know-how and the teams and the infrastructure to be able to write software in ways that they may not be able to, either because they can't hire enough people to do it, because they don't have the expertise, because they've never been a technology company before and they need to figure out how to do that. And so we help them in all of those areas. We also help companies that do know what they're doing innovate. So if they're stuck in thinking about their industry in a particular way, Globant can come in and bring our expertise in other industries and help them think that through. Other companies are like product companies. You can think of Twitter, you can think of Walmart. They kind of have a product or they have a service that they're offering to consumers. And so we tend to help those companies. We help the companies that are building software for customers. What's great about working at a company like Glovin is because you're servicing a bunch of different companies who have a bunch of different technologies, who have a bunch of different industries, you tend to get a lot of experience in a lot of different technologies. So you get breadth in terms of the technologies that you touch and the industries that they're in. And sometimes we get to work very closely with our clients. And because of that, we get to see the interior workings of different companies, which can be helpful if you want to go between a consultancy like Globant and a product company. You can kind of get a taste of how different companies operate, and that can help you make a decision about your career later on. So that's Globant. I've been working at Globant for, it's a big number. It's like 7 years or something. I lost track a while ago. But let's go ahead and, so if you do have any questions about Globant, feel free to ask those in the chat as well. I want to start introducing our speakers here. So first we have Cope, August Capello, we call him Cope. And he's in Connecticut. His title is VP of Delivery. His interests include program management and team sustainability. And his personal interests include running, hiking, puzzles, and movies all at the same time. Cope, did I miss anything there?
No, you did not, Cam. Thank you for the intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Agustin. What Cam didn't mention is that I'm originally from Argentina, relocated in the US in Connecticut 5 years ago. And I'm working with the Walt Disney Company as a client.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And then next up, we have Luis. Luis, you're in Dallas, Texas. Your title is Technical Director, very similar to mine. Odd. Interests include software development, agile methodologies, sports, and barbecue. And those are all very different things. Did I miss anything? Anything you want to add?
No, I will only add that, like what Agus was saying, I'm originally from Colombia. So I relocated to the States 10 years ago. I was based off Chicago for like 3 years, and now I've been here in Dallas for another 7. So I guess that's where, the barbecue hit the road.
It makes sense. I mean, I'm from Missouri, and we all have opinions about barbecue that we shouldn't go into here, but maybe later. Thanks. Let's see. Up next, we have Miguel, who is in Los Angeles, California. He's a senior front-end engineer, and his interests include code, binge watching television, travel, and woodworking. Miguel, did I miss anything there? Anything you want to add?
Not really. Other than I already have my plan for travel this year. So yeah.
Where are you going to go? Or where did you go?
Yeah, no, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, probably Texas.
Wow, big list. Well, look out for the tornadoes, snow, windstorms, and all of the things that are happening right now. Okay, so next up we have Alex. Alex is in the same city as me here in Seattle. His title is software developer / architect, and his personal interests include software development in all areas, human-computer interaction, which maybe we could talk about that later too, cooking and baking, archery, badminton, biking, and learning languages, which is a lot of stuff to like. Alex, that's an exhaustive list. Did you miss anything in that list?
Probably did.
Okay.
I don't know what they are. Everything. So hello, everyone. I've been at Glovin for about 8 years and have a frog in my throat. Excuse me. And I've been in the industry for about, say, 24 years.
A long time. Thanks, Alex. And then last and not least, David survived tornadoes today. So thanks, David, for dodging those. He's in Tampa, Florida. His title is technical manager, and his interests include software team leadership, mobile apps, gaming, music. He's a piano player, and he's a foodie. So sounds like Alex and David could get together, maybe get Luis in there. We can make some barbecue, and all eat it together. Anything I missed there, David? You want to add?
That sounds really good. Well, thank you for having me. My name is David Sanchez. And yes, I think you didn't miss anything there. I'm here at Globan for around 10 years. I've been witnessing all this growing. And I'm also for Colombia, like Luis. So yeah, glad to have another Colombian around. And yeah, looking forward to share with you guys. So definitely with all this interest and yeah, here we come.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Okay, so let's look at our questions here. So panelists, the way that this works is I'm going to say the question. There'll be an awkward moment of silence, and one of you will swoop in to start answering it. We can play off of each other because we all have great experience to help answer this question. So feel free to jump in after the question. So the first question is, how do you see the digital world for developers 5 years from now? And let's do 5 years, maybe 10 years. What do you see as some of the trends now that are going to impact developers? And here's the awkward silence, and then somebody.
I'm going
I'll hit it.
be the great one to speak first. So what I see, it's a lot of there's a lot of things that are being talked about in terms of artificial intelligence, if they're going to replace people, if they're going to do the work that we do, etc., etc. And I think that quite on the contrary, AI, instead of replacing us, will be an amazing tool to help us in every single way. So what I see is for us to have, not only in development, but in management activities and in other activities, like an AI assistant right there, helping us with the things that we do, correcting us as we go, and suggesting things as we go. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely augmentation. As an engineer, I don't think engineering talent will be replaced because, I mean, these AI assistants generating code, they don't generate perfect code. They hallucinate things sometimes. And you still have to be a software engineer to know, like you still have to be a developer to know when that code is not doing the right thing. And so I think that'll be a trap for a lot of junior developers, or maybe a learning experience would be better, is that, just because something generates code for you, much like we used to do when we copied Stack Overflow answers and paste them into our code, you find out that if you don't understand what you're pasting or what you're compiling, things break, and you have to, at the end of the day, know what's going on in that code. So I think AI, Cope, you're right, is the big one that it's going to bring it into our life as developers. It's going to help designers, but at the end of the day, we all need to be there to sanity check anything that gets generated, anything we copy from somewhere else.
I could add something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think AI is going to make software development very exciting. Now, whereas maybe a long time ago, we were working on more sort of low-level code, right? And so we have to write things that are sort of instruction by instruction, and then as things progress, we get higher and higher level. And so now with AI, we're going to be able to create products and experiences for people that will be much faster than we ever did before.
Yeah, I agree. I think it also, like, as a when I do game development, I did it in my free time as an independent game developer, and there are a lot of things I'm really not good at, but I need just enough to be done. Like art is one of these. Like if I had some really crappy art that I knew that I was going to bring an artist in later to make better, I would love to use AI for that. I would love to have AI generate me some really bad placeholder art that I could use to move forward, to do what I'm good at, which is writing code. And so I see it as this thing that can unblock in areas where you might have been really, really stuck before and trying to solve a solution. Even if you're just writing code, like seeing how somebody else how a hallucinating large language model might solve something can help you think through your own problems. And so I think.
Yes, and there are more than one ways to skin a cat, as they say.
Yeah.
So sometimes we tend to think or marry our approaches to problem solving. And I think that having AI at your side to resolve the same problem in a different way, it's a very nice way to contrasting your own ideas and growing from that and improving your own solutions.
So I don't want to deviate from AI, but because I'm in the gaming space, I also see augmented reality as playing a role as the form factor of the VR headsets start to shrink a lot, or even like the Vision Pro that's coming out now. Like if you can do development inside of your headset, where you're no longer constrained to a monitor, but you're doing development and you can see a larger screen at your desk, or you're on the train and now you can actually do some work there, and you're not afraid that your laptop's going to get stolen or anything. I could see augmented reality also offering developers a more immersive way to write code and execute code. I think we're a little bit further away. I think AI is much closer than AR is in that regard. But okay, anything else anyone sees in the next 5 years? I think we're going to see more engineers who have to understand how to, much like getting good at Google searches was a skill. In order to find things, people will have to learn how to, if a large language model is the interface for how we engage with these models, then we'll have to learn what are the ways you can get them to do the things that you want. I don't know if anyone else as a developer had to figure out how to Google things, but there's a certain magic to that to find what you need.
I just want to add a little more thing is that in the next 5 years, when I think about it, is we are that comes from development background we are in a really exciting time. We need to be really very much aware of what's happening. Not every trend, not every single technology that comes out of the school necessarily will hit the market and it's gonna get a wide adoption. But if we are very much depending on how people is using these and what are the devices, what are the ways we are interacting with content, we as devs should be behind that, so we can know how people is responding to the changes, and that we can learn about those changes. We're the first in line to do it. Yeah.
And another thing that I think it's very interesting to think about when we talk about this is that as the job market evolves, a lot of new positions, new skill sets, new roles are created, and a lot disappear. So I think that I dare not venture to say what positions or roles are going to appear, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very different to what we have right now.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we're already seeing a little bit of that happening. All right, cool. I think we skinned that dead cat. I don't know if that's the right euphemism. All right, next question. So we have a lot of folks here who are on projects from Glovin. The question is, what companies do you help with your work? So if people just want to scream out their client if they can, that would be a good start. But we help a ton of clients. Like if you name a client, we probably have a project with them. I can't think of a well-known company that we don't at this point.
Disney.
Disney. Yeah.
Disney, Adobe. We used to have people at Twitter too. Now we don't. But
Yeah.
some major airlines too. That's on top of my mind.
From gaming, we have EA, and we're working with Ubisoft, and there's a couple others there.
We have
Procter and Gamble. Sorry, Cope.
a lot of cruise lines.
Oh, yeah.
We have casinos. We have airlines that are like, you name it, and we're there.
Yeah, it was about to talk about cruise lines. Yeah, I actually work in Royal Caribbean, but we have Royal Caribbean, Carnival, so a lot of cruise lines, and there's a lot of cool tech that we are quickly to people that goes to ships as well.
Also, we have clients in Europe. I'm not very familiar, but I know for sure that we have clients in Europe, in India, in Latam. So major Latam airlines, which is precisely Latam Airlines is one of the biggest ones. And then I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And
And small companies too. A lot of large companies were named. We also work with a lot of small companies. For example, I worked with a company named Rally Road, and Expansive, which are like, they have some great ideas and they're sort of trying to change the world, and we get to help with their work as well.
And then, yeah, I think our more recent one is a big one is FIFA, right? Like we're helping FIFA digitalize. So they're a company that's traditionally
Lakers too.
oh yeah, the Lakers as well. So yeah, so we're pushing into sports teams as well to help them build out their stadiums and their IoT experience, as well as how do they stream games and engage with fans. And so there's, like I said, if we sat here and named everything, it would be the entire meeting. So it's a good taste. I think also on our website, we list some of our clients as well. I don't know if anyone can grab that list, but there's a nice client list there too as well. Okay, so next question. How should a young engineer who recently graduated from coding go about finding work? Now, full disclosure, I get the feeling based on the seniority here that it's been a while since a lot of us have graduated and searched for work. So take our advice with a grain of salt. We can tell you what we're looking for when we hire, or when we're trying to bring somebody in. And I think that's as best as we can do, but I don't think any of us have recently graduated and gotten a job, just looking at all the people here who have been at Glovin for so long.
Yes, there's something that I have recent experiences, or somewhat recent experiences with family and friends, and I have the opportunity to participate in their processes. I would say that, contrary on what I was used to in my home country in Argentina, the process of searching for a job here is very professionalized, and it's very, I would say, standard. So one of the things that I found to be very useful to help other people is to create a really a CV that is machine proof. Right now, with all the remote work, each individual position has tons and tons and tons of applicants, and companies, in order to evaluate those candidates, they use robots to analyze the resumes. So there are many tools online that can tell you about how your resume adapts to a certain job description. So one of the things that I would say to begin with is your CV needs to be tailored exactly to what the position is that you're applying for. You cannot use just a template and apply everywhere, because that doesn't work in today's world, where you have thousands of candidates all over the country. So that's one for sure.
I'm trying to find. Sorry, you go first, Alex. I'm trying to find. There's a format that a lot of the AI systems that ingest resumes look for, and if you put your resume in that particular format, then they can read it better and can find the keywords that they're looking for. It can also help get past those systems. But I can't remember the name. So Alex, please go ahead.
ATS?
Is it? Did you say ETS?
ETS, I believe, yeah.
I think, yeah. I know it's an acronym of some kind. That sounds right. All right, continue on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so from my perspective, maybe from a perspective of a person that might interview someone, the things I would look for is always problem-solving skills. And as we talk about 5 years from now, how development will look different, it'll still be problem-solving skills. Different types of, so it's not so much the exact language sometimes, but if exact programming language, but how well you understand that programming language, how deep you go into it. Do you really understand the concepts? Can you sort of apply that to solve different types of problems? Can you think a little bigger and sort of observe what's going on around you and not just work on your task? Those are the kind of things I would look for.
Yeah, I just want to add that, as Alice mentioned, so if along with just, having these problem-solving skills that you most likely will be interviewed about them, is that you can, more than a CV, you can create like a personal brand in a way that you can show what you know, and if there's always a portfolio and a work you did, repos or things that you can share, even if they are from I know labs or things that you just try on your own, all of that is valuable because if I just graduated, I haven't worked before in a company, but even I'm still able to show, hey, I'm trying this, I'm coding that. I can show that one, that I would like to be proactive and try to learn and to be, just right on the things that are happening. And I will also add human skills, which will be really, really more valuable with all that we are living right now. The fact that you can work in your soft skills, the fact that you can work in a good communication approach, on the way that you can show, hey, I can work with a team, not only by myself, maybe I can integrate to whatever team is available, no matter where they are, I can connect with them and available online, or even if it's at an office. So the possibilities that you can show of how you can work, and as a human, how you can communicate what you know, I think that will be really, really critical to make the difference between you and maybe 10 or 15 more other people that are applying to that position. So just to keep that in mind.
And I'll paste this link here in the chat that talks about the ATS resume template. I don't know if anyone's talked to the students here today about it before, but it's one of the emerging trends in how recruiters no longer have to read a bunch of resumes. Now they let the machine do it first, and then they get to it after that. And so formatting it in this way can help you get past that initial step. Usually we have our recruiter, Anusha, here, but she's not here today, and she would give all the useful tips and advice, but she couldn't make it today. So trying to cover that with some of these helpful tips. Okay, great. Let's move on. So I don't think we have any data scientists or machine learning folks here from Glovin today, but let's see if we can come up with a question for this. Alex and I have been working with some data scientists, so maybe we can have some insights, but anyone else as well. So the question is, what skills are companies looking for in mid-level data scientists and machine learning candidates? One of the things that I've seen working with people in the data science space is when they come and work for a company where you have to build a product, it's no longer academic, and so the timelines change, and how you train models, how you think about what the output's supposed to be. All of that's now driven by the product that you're creating and the timelines for that product. And all of software development uses these agile methodologies with these 2-week sprints, which don't always align with how training works and how testing of that training works. And so I guess the advice would be to keep an eye out and look for resources that I don't have for how you can move from data science as sort of a thing that you do in an academic sense to data science in software development, and where those intersect, and then how the technology is evolving, right? Data science is continuing to evolve, and the techniques are evolving, and keeping up with that. Someone who's aware of modern data science and machine learning techniques, also very important. Cope, did you have your finger up?
Yes, and one of the, we have done, I'm not technical, or I stopped being long ago. However, a few of the the proposals and proofs of concept that we're doing for our clients, one of the things that is recurrent and they ask a lot about is, and I think that this is something very interesting to know, it's what are the different providers of LLMs or language models are there, which ones are source are open source, which ones are private, which ones which is the comparison between the performances of them, like for example what Azure does, what Google does, what Amazon does. So I think it's very important to know the different providers, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each one, and to know the different open source on top of all things. And also, how do each one of those tools grant the privacy and security of the information? Because like companies are very jealous of their intellectual property and of their own information. So whenever we're starting to discuss AI or large language models or big like chunks of data processing, what they're interested in is, where is my data going to? And are you going to use it for something else, or just for training my models? Or is there going to be some kind of risk of leaking information at some point of time? So those like basic, well, not basic, but very important things we keep being asked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a space right now where it's also evolving. So people are, like maybe what Cope said earlier, is people are hiring a heck of a lot more data scientists and machine learning folks than they were 2 years ago, when it was sort of no one was really sure where it fits, where that technology was going to land. And now, yeah, the technology is moving very quickly. There are new roles there, and so it's a good space to be in if you're taking lessons there. Okay. Next question. How did you make the transition from learning tech to operating a business? So this is an interesting one, because I don't know how many of us here operate a business, but one of the things working at Globant you get a little more insight into than I felt like I have at public company or at product companies, is you get to see stuff like the P&L, the profit and loss of the project that you're on. How can you make sure that, you want to bring a really good engineer onto your team? How do you make sure that that doesn't like cost the client a lot of money? How can you make sure that the team size doesn't grow so large that people aren't doing work? How do you hire the right people? Those are the kinds of mindsets I see that Globant, where you're building tech, you're working on tech, you're building those solutions. The next layer up, you go from a technologist to a manager to somebody who's running an even larger part of the organization and operating the business. You start to see more of the processes versus the systems and the technologies. You see the processes and you see the people, and you have a chance to bring them in and build good teams. I don't know, Cope, I know that you're doing a lot with operating on your side as on the delivery side.
Yes, and my experience, I started off as a developer like 30, 20 something years ago. I don't even know by now. But my evolution towards like managing and operating the business for Globant, or this part of the business of Globant, was very natural. So I started developing for health institution, and the project started being relevant in the entire, it was a hospital. And then they started selling that software to other hospitals. So as I was the one who knew it the most, the management started like taking me everywhere to showcase the product, to show how it works and all of that. So we started growing a team, and it went from being a team of just one developer to having multiple roles and multiple skill sets. So as I was the most tenured one, I started getting involved in all the different activities, and I started liking the more of like the management part of it, the commercial part of it, like how do you price your product, how do you ensure that it's profitable, how do you ensure that it continues to grow, and it was for me sort of a very natural
hear.
transition. So that's the way it happened. And before I knew it, I didn't code anymore, and I was like a full-time manager.
I think that one of the major things that, especially if you're thinking like as a developer who does a startup, or as a developer who, it's really changing from just writing code and thinking about writing code to thinking about who does this solve problems for? Who is this a product for? When I write something, how does this convert over to being something that people can use? And I think that's like the shortest path to being operating a business, is writing code for somebody to solve a problem, and then getting them to pay for it is the harder part sometimes. But at least thinking more of your code as the product. A lot of times as developers, when we're writing code, we're getting that from a product person who's telling us the way that things should be, and the next step is saying, oh, does this feature make sense? Does this feature really help our end users? And then for me, that's the most natural progress I've seen from going from strict development to thinking about products and thinking about how those become sellable.
I'm not sure if the person asking this question is asking about operating a business, like starting up a business as well. Because if it's about starting up a business and owning one, I would recommend talking to other people that have done startups, because there's a lot to learn there. And a lot of different, it's like the tech part is, well, the product, building the product, which Cam talked about. You have the right vision, you have to understand what's the need, but there's a whole other area with startups about raising money, how to handle money, how to hire, how to lead a team, just a whole bunch of stuff. And I think the best place to get that kind of information, if you want to transition to that, is to talk to, I'm blanking on the expression, but like straight from the horse's mouth, or since we have animal themes today, about cats and horses. Yeah.
That one's a little less gruesome than Cope's. Yeah, I agree. Like I hang out on Hacker News a lot, which is inside of the Y Combinator startup incubator. Not that I'm part of that group, but you get to read about a lot of startups and how they've operated, and that could be useful as well. But I think looking at and talking to startups is great advice.
Yeah, and a fun way to do that is actually there's a lot of hackathons that you can participate in, where you're there to pitch a product, pitch an idea, and you're there with other people that are trying to run a startup, or start some idea. And so those are places where you get to kind of apply the technology, and as well as start to see what the thinking behind businesses.
Makes sense. Oh, we have a question in the chat. All right, let's see here. The question is, how would you suggest merging software engineering with project management, or would it be better to merge with product management?
So we have, I can start responding that. First of all, I don't think there's an answer to that. I think the answer is within yourself. What drives your passion and what makes you feel better about your own performance career, and what you feel you're more comfortable in and you like more. I would say that in my experience with my clients, the roles that are more compatible are software engineering with project management. In general, people from product and development tend to clash a lot. I'm not saying it's not possible to combine them. I'm just describing what I've seen in the past. So we have also a very common role in our client is Disney Media, and it's basically a technology company that does entertainment. So project management is very technical, because everything is very, very technology oriented. So you need a very, or if you have a solid technology background, it helps you a lot. So most of our project managers are technical project managers. So that's something that is frequent, or more frequent to see than a developer that is a product manager. So I would say that's more common, but I wouldn't say it's more doable or achievable than the other one.
So I can also add, well, my role actually are here in Global, we have this role, it's called technical manager, which we are both technical and managers to some extent. And as I was mentioned, so if you really like most people have to do this decision, okay, I become a subject matter expert in this tech and this programming language. So people just get married with that programming language or that technology and just want to do coding. They don't want to mess up with managing staff for a team or so. But something in the middle is if you become a technical leader and management, you really would like to be a hands-on person, a person that just will be able to be accountable for what your team is doing and coding. And that's something I really like about my job, is the fact that I'm not necessarily coding all the time, but I cannot do it because of all the compromises and the things that we need to do. But we are still able to review what others are doing and understand what they are coding. And this is really good because it keeps you fresh on how technology is evolving, while you still can direct some of the elements on the architecture and use the management abilities to coordinate with product, to create consensus, to manage the expectation of the delivery. So if we can estimate something, how soon we can deliver that, how we are delayed, what's our action plan. So there's a little things that we can mix, but it all comes to what you really like to do and what's the level of background you want to have for those things.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a real good answer. I will say that I do, as a developer, I do. Sometimes we get project managers who are non-technical, and sometimes we get product managers who are non-technical. And anytime either of those roles for me can have a technical background, COPE included, it's just they understand the process, they understand the mindset, they understand how software is created, and what the limitations are. And so it is I think a benefit if you find yourself not loving code and wanting to move into not the SME space, but you want to be part of that making software. I think those are either one. It's up to you as to whether you want to be part of managing process or being part of creating user stories and user experiences as part of the product team. Both of them are super valuable and can be very great careers. But yeah, it has to be about what you really enjoy about software. All right, let's look at our next question. I think there's a question about what programming language should we keep an eye on. I don't know at this point if there's really Python seems to be winning a lot recently because of the AI boom.
Yeah, when it comes to large language models and AI, if you like the trend in Python, it's really a must. It's really hitting all trends. But also keep an eye on what Apple is launching with the Vision Pro and the ecosystem. If Apple, if they are successful with it, it's built on the top of existing technologies like Swift. So if you like Swift or hybrid or mobile development or language like Flutter, that the one that Google does. So those are languages that might still have a lot of things, a lot of features to come, but there's plenty of them, to be honest.
Yeah, there really is. I think the only other place is C++ has been king for such a long time. And for certain use cases, you have Go and Rust trying to dethrone C++ as being more memory safe C++ alternatives, or at least in the Rust scenario, especially. So I don't know if anyone's going to be able to dethrone C++, but those are two languages that are attempting.
Something that I'd like to add is that especially when we are young, we tend to dismiss all languages, thinking that they may be all 20, 30 years old and nobody is using that. But the truth is that there are still systems in place using Pascal, Go, and so I go a little bit earlier. I think there is still a lot of potential on Java, C++, and so all of the existing technologies. Think about airlines, think about government. They are still using those tools, the programming languages. So they're still in place. They may not be innovative, they may not be cool, but they'll still be used.
Languages don't die, just people start getting paid a lot more the fewer developers there are.
Exactly.
Okay, let's look at our next question. What is the most challenging obstacle that a junior developer might come across, and what advice would you give them?
I guess that turning into like proving what they can offer. So before earlier, August and David talked about that you need to be able to solve problems. So I think that one of the most challenging part at the beginning, someone without a professional experience, is to prove that. How to overcome that is actually building projects, actually solve a problem. Like if you are in the university and you may be helping the dean or something, so build something and then use that to prove what you solve, the problem that you solve. Which tool do you use? That's my advice.
Yeah, I think that is the big differentiator. Is like when I look at a junior developer, is this somebody who learned a language and knows how to write that language, or is this, to what Alex said earlier, is this someone who has thought through how to solve problems? Because that is a muscle that you have to use over and over again. Is how do you take a problem, break it down into its parts, and then start writing the code? And if a junior developer has that, to me, that puts them ahead of other junior developers that don't.
Yeah, and I also think that, dealing with the complexity of processes and actually being inside a company also could become an obstacle, because during your college years you're used to developing software, small units, but then you come into a company and you have to develop something that is a small part of a huge system, and then you have to do different processes, like you were mentioning, like agile processes. You have test checks or refinements. You have all of these processes put in place that make your life easier. But I can see that could easily overwhelm someone when they're just starting their work, their career. So I would say focusing on those communication skills and being able to ask folks what's going on, or be shy, just say I don't understand this process, or if I've modify this code, am I fixing this or am I breaking something else? And just being open to communicate and collaborate. I think that will be something that will definitely help folks once they're deployed into a new company.
This is a really great question, and I can think of there are different things that we can do. We're in this situation. We just joined a company with a junior dev or so, and I will say that it is very important just to keep the mind focused and just understand that we are bringing something to the table, and you should be confident about what you know, and at the same time, really open to learn and learn fast. I think when you have these two things, you can do a lot of things. So there's this thing called the imposter syndrome. I guess many of you have heard about it. So we maybe are not feeling good enough, but the truth is that you're always going to have something to contribute, and you're always going to have something to learn. Always, no matter how many years will happen. So the thing is that you can just remain calm and focus on what you're doing. Believe me, you will always find people great to work with and you can learn a lot from. And you will always find people that is not so great to work with, and it's really, really hard to work on. And sometimes we cannot even do anything about it immediately. So if you are really, aware of these situations and try to get learning from this, so either you earn money, but also you are getting experience. All right. If you are not getting either money or not experience, that's really bad. But if you are getting experience and you are actually trying to incorporate that, that the next thing you will do, you're gonna get that learning and take it off. And I think that it's all about that. We can keep that focus. Okay.
I'd like to add something. I think those are great points. For me, make sure you have that confidence. It was an obstacle because you're a junior. You feel like maybe I'm not sure if I should speak up. Those are all great things. The new twist I would add to it, this is that, or a piece of advice I would say is, when we join the workforce, we might think of the work as the primary focus, and we are all very focused on the work. But I would say make sure you use your manager and find a mentor, or use your manager as a mentor, and talk with them about how to grow in your position. So don't just think about your work, but think about how you can do better, what how you can grow, what you can learn. Because for me, for example, even though it's many years ago, when I started, I wasn't thinking so much about growing. It was just getting the work done. But now I look back, I could see like, hey, if I worked with a mentor more often to get advice about what courses I could take, or how I could talk to my teammates better, things like that, or what myriad of things, whatever you want to talk to a person about. I think that's a great propeller in your career.
Thanks, Alex, and everyone else for their answers. Looks like we have chat's blowing up a bit. So let's see here. Looks like there's a question about specific degrees. So would a Master of Science in Information Technology be icing on the cake for merging SC with project management? My personal feeling, and I don't want to be controversial, so I think getting continuing education is great. Getting a master's is great. It tends to be, from my experience in technology, that the deeper you go in technology, master's, doctorate, the more specific your learning needs to get. So project management, from my perspective, is a little vague in terms of how much you could learn from an MS in information technology applied specifically to project management. I think it'll make you a better engineer, more than likely, or at least a better technology professional if you get a master's. But a lot of the times I see, unless you're doing really complex things with Google and helping them solve problems that are academic in nature being brought into technology, most roles can be satisfied with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science or Information Technology. The majority, or even now, like now that we've democratized learning, boot camps are an entryway a lot of the times for people to get into technology as well, because learning is out there and because people can learn at their own pace and they can learn in cohorts. Like the need for a master's and a doctorate really becomes necessary only when you're being incredibly specific in domain areas that require deep academic knowledge about that. Now, I won't say don't, because I think that education is great, and any amount of education you can get is always going to help you understand that world better. But in my experience, it's not required to go into a master's in the majority of cases. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that. If anyone here has a master's and I've now just offended a large swath of the room.
I do have a master's, and I'm deeply offended. I'm not offended at all. Even more so, I do agree completely with you. I think that when you study a master's, it comes with a bunch of things that you don't need or won't actually help you, or are things that you don't specifically like. And if you are a self-starter and you have enough discipline, you can learn a lot more if you focus on the things that you really want to learn. And also, I think that real life experience and interacting with other people, knowing other cultures, helps you a lot. I'm not saying that you should do that as opposed to formal education, but I feel that throughout my career, and especially working in a company like Glovin, where we have people in all over the world, it has been a huge learning experience. For example, even like within Latin America, that you would say we're all somewhat similar. No, the nuances of each culture, for example, is huge. And to learn to work through those differences, at least in my personal case, has helped me a lot in growing and in improving or pursuing my career plans.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, in my so something that happened to me is that when I was working and trying to get promoted to a manager position, and sometimes was thinking, okay, I have education on computer science and programming, but I don't know about management. How we can learn about that? Maybe I'm not a leader, but I need to learn some other skills. What can I do? And sometimes, if you are really busy at work, you have family, maybe you can take a master degree or something like that. But sometimes you cannot really afford that, or even whether it's for time or money. I found out that, okay, but what else I can learn during this process? And and there's plenty of even for courses with essentials that you will need to get equipped for that level. So there's courses like Harvard Business School online or Coursera, all these things. They have really good tracks, very affordable, with management essential skills. I did some of that, and in fact, I found people from Uber and Twitter and Facebook studying those courses as well, which was really great. I could interact with these people. They don't know we're not like really doing a big master, but they were doing these courses with me. The fact that they were doing that was really valuable to me. And this combined with your experience, because you gotta be working and just gotta experience. That's in the main field, you will learn like a huge lot. And with all these things, I think you can create a really solid skill set. So education is always important, but this is also changing with AI, with all these things. So just keep an eye that it's not, I think it's not that as in the past, that people just were envisioning having, children with that big scholarship of this huge, a lot of titles. So things are changing also in that way. Information is in our hands, and even it will be in our eyes, it will be in our ears. So if we can tailor that and put it on a focus for practical solutions, I think we're gonna be valuable as candidates and as workers.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think for project management specifically, like if you are a software engineer, you know how to write code. There are agile trainings, there are safe trainings that can teach you what does a project manager need to know. So that'll teach you like what are the big thing that I see project managers and product managers bringing is process. How do you think about structuring this? And so if that's really the key. You don't need a master's to understand how what are the processes that can structure a project, and what are the ones that exist that we can leverage to run projects as a project manager. Those are out there, and there are trainings that you can get without going to school for 2-4 years, however long a master's is these days. We're just about out of time. It looks like there's the question in the chat just about, do you need a computer science degree? I think, like we said earlier, it's not necessary anymore. It can certainly be helpful, and I would never dissuade anyone from going to traditional 4-year bachelor's to get a computer science degree, because that's a foundation. It's a foundation that you have 4 years to percolate on, and you get pelted with all of the algorithms that you have to think through, and how do engineers think, and how do you write code, and you get a chance to write a lot of code and get feedback on it. And so that's always going to be useful. If you have that opportunity, that's great. But once again, software development has been democratized to the point where if you're self-driven and you can go take courses and you take the time to write code yourself, that's 100%. Like, we've hired people who have gone through boot camps. Google makes people go through boot camps so they can bring in a cohort of junior people to find out who's going to be the next generation of Googlers. So like tech companies, especially before the pandemic, were using boot camps a lot to scale up their junior capacity, and whether or not that's happening now, I think it's coming back a little bit more, but it's still a completely fair way to get into technology through a boot camp. And I think that we are 1 minute from being out of time. So there is a survey that Amy posted at the beginning. Please feel free to fill that out so we know if we did a good or bad job. Some are better than others. And then I'll hand it back over. Any closing words?
Alyssa, are you still on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I didn't know if that was back to me or.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, this was a very insightful event. I liked a lot of the explanations that you guys gave. I think that I learned a lot, and I think that our students definitely benefited. I know Amy dropped a survey in the chat here, and she would like, Globin would like to know your feedback about the event. So if the students who are here in the call, if you can just take a moment and fill out this survey. And then Amy also mentioned about connecting with the Globanteers on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with them. We do post this event on YouTube. So if you want to, go back and review any of the answers, you'll find it on our YouTube channel within the next day or so. But other than that, I wish everybody a great night. And I thank you, Globin, for your time. I know that you guys are spread out over the country. So some of you, it's not the most ideal time, but we really appreciate your insights and you guys being here. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Good day, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.